Excuse me. Hey everybody, this is Carl back again for another movie spoiler review. And just got back from seeing the Blue Beetle movie. Before we continue, please like and subscribe. Hit the notification bell. If you're watching this on YouTube, that's youtube.com/talkativecarl. You can follow me here live on twitch.tv/talkativecarl. And the other links in the description below, such as my Patreon, Twitter, Instagram. And yeah, man, me and a friend of mine went out to go see the Blue Beetle movie. It was so much fun, honestly. And I argue, because eventually I gotta go back to add in to my DC EU movie rankings and start throwing in, like, or at least when the end of the Gods and Monsters DC phase is complete, because I argue they should have waited until Blue Beetle and Aquaman 2 and push it to like after Superman Legacy comes out. But irregardless, I would put it just slightly over the first Shazam movie. And I really love the first Shazam movie. As far as, like, how would I rate it? I'd say it's a solid 7 out of 10 for me. It's really well done. The practical effects is like phenomenal. And man, it can get, if there's times when they push it to nearly R rating and body horror type of stuff, especially when, like, when Blue Beetle transforms, especially the first time, it gets like, they lean into like a body horror type of thing. And I love the way they depict the Blue Beetle scarab on Jaime Reyes' back, because normally it's just on the, it's just attached to his back. No, in this, it's literally, it burrows itself in his body, is literally attached to his spine, and like the back part of the scarab is protruding on the outside of his just barely outside of his skin. So it's like it gets kind of gnarly, but not in like an extreme grotesque way. But it was very well done. It was very well shot, and I'm glad they show it, because more often than not, it's just like a thing just adhered to his back. So let's and this is like a very well casted, very well, the everybody from the director down to like the actors, producers, a lot of them are of Hispanic descent, whether it's Mexican, Puerto Rican, Guatemalan, whatever. That's why I feel like, I think a lot of people resonate with this movie. I kind of wish there was on the same level as like Black Panther for the Hispanic community, but it's still pretty rock solid. Directed by Angel Manuel Soto, and we got Zolo Merladuena as Jaime Reyes, Blue Beetle. And I'm gonna butcher, there's probably gonna be times I'm gonna butcher some of these names, so forgive me. I got Adrina Barreza as Nana, Jaime's grandmother. Damian Alazar as Alberto Reyes, Jaime's father. El Padilla Carrillo as Roquillo Reyes, the mom. Bruna Marquezine as Jenny Cord, Ted Cord's daughter, and Jaime's love interest. And I honestly say, when I saw her, I swear I thought they looked like Paula Patton, because the cheekbones, she's stunningly beautiful, but the cheekbones, the facial features, it's like, like I swear I thought this might have been like, Paula Patton's daughter or something. I don't know, because looks, she looks just like her. We got Raul Max Trillo as Inicio Carapax, aka Omac. I thought it was like Black Beetle, because I think there's like a villain named Black Beetle that Jaime Reyes fights in the comics from time to time. And not like a deep cut uh enthusiast on Blue Beetle, but I know like a fair bit. I read a fair bit of Blue Beetle comics. Speaking of, after I saw this movie, like I am like, I need to put on a docket to not only review a Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle comic, but I want to read one strictly about Ted Kord, and one I want to try to find one strictly about Dan Garrett, the original Blue Beetle. And fun fact, Dan Garrett ain't the original Blue Beetle. As I'm not sure if there's been like, I'm pretty sure New 52 kind of the New 52 DC era kind of reworked some Blue Beetle lore, where back, when the Scarab falls to Earth from space, in original story canon. Before I get into it, let me finish the thing. We got Susan Sarandon playing Victoria Court, the main villain. George Lopez as Rudy Reyes, Jaime's uncle. Becky G voices Kaji Da, the Blue Beetle Scarab. Anyway, of course, this is alien technology, and the Kaji Da Scarab falls to Earth, and it lands in ancient times of Mayan culture, and is found by an Aztec warrior. And the Blue Beetle Scarab doesn't just work for anybody. It's sentient, so it has to choose. Essentially like Mjolnir's spell, where it's like only somebody who is deemed worthy shall wield the power of Thor. So Blue Beetle Scarab kind of sort of works on that same level. I'm not sure how the Blue Beetle Scarab or Kaji Da chooses who is worthy. It was his own volition, but it chose this Mayan warrior or Aztec warrior. It chose Dan Garrett, and it chose Jaime Reyes. It never chose Ted Kord or anybody else. Even though Ted Kord had his possession, he just modeled it to be, it inspired him to be like a Batman-esque character and make all these gadgets and stuff like that. But anyway, it fell to Earth. This warrior finds it. It attaches itself to this warrior. He became the de facto leader of this culture, and it mentions in the movie, like it is most of the time in the comics, where once the Scarab attaches itself to you, it doesn't come off until the host dies. Until that happens, it will stay. It's kind of like a symbiote. It's like venom in a way. It heals it, protects it as much as it can, but unless the host is killed in action, or the host dies of old age, one or the other, it's stuck there. And the warrior who became king knew that, okay, we can't have nobody else wielding this amazing power. He didn't know it was, I guess in the that person's mind is like, oh, it came from the stars, it came from the heavens, is bestowed upon us, or some crap like that. And it's like, oh, we can't have this power be wielded by somebody who wouldn't be worthy, because they'll probably cause utter devastation. So I want to be buried with this thing, and the thing tries to fly off, but it catches it. He catches it, and the whole thing, the whole temple collapses on top of him, so he makes sure he's buried. Then, many years later, Dan Garrett, discovers this, and because he was like a archaeologist, and before he associated himself with like Ted Kord, and that's how he got possession of the Scarab in the comics. He became the first Blue Beetle on record. I think he was part of the Justice Society. I could be wrong about that, but anyway, he became the original Blue Beetle. and then eventually it went down to Jaime Reyes. Uh, uh, so I want to at some point I'm gonna look it up and put it on like a list so I can do, because like I've been like deep in a lot of Marvel stuff for a long while, and like gonna have to make sure I take a break from that for a hot minute, because all that Spider-Man stuff and all the X-Men stuff that I'm doing right now that's nearly done, I want to get back into some DC. And you know, Halloween's coming out, so I want to probably read some Spawn or something like that, something that's kind of breaks away from Marvel for a little bit. Anyway, uh, this I mean, like you hear from James Gunn, I think is depending on how successful this movie is, and it is. I imagine it's very successful. A lot of people are loving this, depending on how, because this was already been like, you know, produced, written, you know, filmed, all before James Gunn took the reins of uh of DC. So it was all depending on how well this movie does will determine if James Gunn will want to move on with Blue Beetle in his continuity. And like I certainly hope, you know, this works out well enough to, because like that main actor, he was in like Cobra Kai. I never watched it, but he's great. He did like a very well, great job. So really hope he continues on with Blue Beetle. Yeah, and then a lot of people have like great reverence for Blue Beetle, mostly because of the Batman Brave and the Bold TV show back in like the mid 2000s, early to mid 2000s. Whereas like Batman, I'm going to do a review on Batman Brave and the Bold and a couple of other Batman TV shows next year. But Batman Brave and the Bold did an amazing job boosting up a lot of characters that, you know, in the comics to some extent doesn't get the love or reverence like they should. And Blue Beetle was the main one that got like a lot of love. And during especially during the arc where some of the crime syndicate members tried to you know, take on Batman, and Batman has to stop Owlman. There's an evil version of Jaime Reyes, because Jaime Reyes in this, you know, doesn't like the idea of killing people. He's all about family. He's, you know, does, you know, always the right thing. He's very smart, all this stuff. Very charming. He's very Spider-Man Peter Parker-esque. But evil Jaime Reyes, or in Crime Syndicate world, he will be known as the Red Scarab. And this dude is freaking sadistic. If you've seen Batman Brave and the Bold, you know what I'm talking about, because it always stuck with me after so many years that Batman overhears him in a cafeteria saying something like, like, I got a heart of a hero. I keep it in a jar in my room. And it's like, Jesus Christ. So of course, somebody as good as Jaime Reyes, his evil counterpart, has to be probably like almost like a serial killer level kind of attitude. And of course, you know, Kajida, Blue Beetle, Scarab, you know, just a little brief history rundown in case you do not know. The Scarab comes from a race of insectoid-like aliens who called the Reach. Who, and they kind of did this in Batman Brave and the Bold. This is where I learned this from. The Reach, more times than not, has like a antagonistic against, you know, or normally antagonistic against the Green Lantern Corps. That's why, you know, all the because they invented these scarabs, and they're like almost like, you know, a mix between Iron Man armor and the symbiotes, because they're pretty much, you know, symbiotic battle suits. And what the Reach do is send, you know, because they're, I guess, essentially programmed At least that's how it was in the comics in most iterations. They're programmed to seek out the most powerful being on said planet, and then you only send one to each planet that's have like sentient life or a hierarchy sentient life, like humanoid or whatever civilizations, and seek out a worthy or powerful being on said planet, and essentially make them sleeper agents without them knowing it. And they automatically, when the reach, when it gets to a certain point where it's like, you know, almost like low on this false sense of security kind of situation, then they kind of activate. It all depends on when the Reach decides to come to the planet, and it was like, oh, it's time, kind of thing, and it takes over the host completely, and they start like systematically taking out, threats. But on of course they get stopped, and when that kind of stuff happens. But outside of that, these things, because the Reach has such a they do not like the Green Lantern Corps, and anytime any one of the Scarab hosts is near a Green Lantern, the Scarab, almost like, on instinct, gets extremely protective. Like, Jaime's suit gets very spiky, or it automatically goes in attack mode. It's almost like it's on defense, because like they see the Green Lanterns as like a serious threat. Do not take them lightly. Take them out immediately. It's just on automatic. It makes the kind of story cool. Like, I highly recommend you guys check out Batman Brave and Bold, and more in particular the arc where the Reach are trying to use their Scarab host to attack Oa. At least how I fairly remember it, but it's a very well done arc. Anyway, to the movie. So Jaime Reyes comes home to this kind of fake city, Palmera City. I'm not sure it's supposed to be in, like, it's supposed to make it like in Mexico or Florida, or is, more than likely in the States, but it's definitely like, because they make a mention like they're not in Mexico, because they mention Mexico. So they and by the way, there's no cameos from Wonder Woman or any of the Justice League members. This is very focused on Blue Beetle's canon stuff. And a lot of people hope to see, like, Booster Gold, because Booster Gold has famously been friends with Ted Kord and Jaime Reyes, and they often team up on a lot of occasions. But he comes home from college after he graduated and everything like that, and he comes home to find out not only that, because Kord Industries being led by Ted Kord's sister, who's like the main villain of this film, who played by Susan Sarandon, who's always a phenomenal actress. It's kind of like, gentrification, like, there's a company turning Ted Kord's like a, company that's based on helping people and, better, like more altruistic use of tech. And, it's kind of like, if Ted Kord is like the Tony Stark, his sister is more like Obadiah Stane, whereas like, and every once in a while they kind of have to play, this is an origin story, they kind of have to play certain beats of like what you see from other films, like the first Iron Man film is very kind of akin to that, like fighting a kind of a evil version, or at least somebody using like a evil variant of the power that you're using, like Black Panther Killmonger, or Iron Man Ironmonger, like Superman and Zod, that kind of thing. but you know that doesn't really take you out of it, in my opinion. But uh, the company's like slowly encroaching on this like lower to middle class area. They could easily have been Mexico, honestly. Uh, uh, but I kind of wish they doesn't make it like a fake city and actually make it like some area that's a you know uh you know highly populated with Hispanic culture, like Hispanic people, and you see, but it's really done. It's like I'm nitpicking here, but it is the Panama things kind of bothers me. It's like I don't know, I don't know. They could have just made it a real place, because like Jaime Reyes in the comics, lives in Texas, from my recollection. Because I remember reading, I really want to after like the uh DC Rebirth is the if you want to get the jump on learning more about Blue Beetle, I highly recommend reading DC Rebirth, and you can start learning. It's like a good fresh start to learning about Jaime Reyes' Blue Beetle, and by extension Ted Court. Uh, and he lives in Texas. So you can have a fair bit of the Mexican culture because a lot of them live in like not shabby towns, but like lower to middle class, decent residency. Anyway, uh, uh, and not only they're on the verge of losing their house because they can't make payments, but the father had like a heart attack scare. So now Jaime and his sister, who I really love the sister too, uh, she's not annoying. She's not just she's kind of like that your typical sister that cares about you but always like to you know get your goat every once in a while. uh uh she helps him get a job at a place she works at, which it happens to be kind of ironically as a service worker on one on what's the I keep wanting to call Susan Sarandon, Victoria Accord's uh building where she works. But the Cord Industries, like they got their reach ironically in a lot of places here in this city. But I was about to say, I'm blanking. Something that came to mind before I got to that. It's like, hey, I should talk about that, but it escapes me right now. But uh, she we meet the niece, who's the you know altruistic, charitable uh person in the family who wants to keep the business going the way the father wanted to keep it going. Like he disappeared under mysterious means. Obviously, being a superhero, he's probably was on because nobody knew except for the daughter and his late wife that he was a superhero. Later on, uh, Uncle Rudy uh, and the other Reyes family soon learned this from uh, uh, Jenny, that Ted Cord was the superhero Blue Beetle. And Rudy remembers like being like a young guy and hearing stories about Blue Beetle, even though he wasn't as big as somebody like Batman or Superman or the Flash. But and that's the only kind of name drops you usually you get from here. But Rudy looked up to Blue Beetle because he feels like he's what he feels like Batman should be, where he's like at least crack jokes and he is charming and everything like that. And he make that joke about Batman being a fascist. I have to bring that up. Uh, uh, And of course, Jaime steps in after he sees like Victoria and Carapace, kind of like getting in her personal space. And it's like, whoa, whoa. She says, back off. What the heck, man? And of course, like this leads to, the siblings getting fired and Jenny getting feeling bad. She, gives Jaime her number so that she can help at least find like a job in court industries in a different capacity. As the next day, and I want to take a moment to express because Victoria is a decent villain in this, and definitely Omag is very intimidating. The actor who plays Omag is very intimidating, but I was definitely engaged in the relationship between Jaime and his family, and by extension Jenny. It is very well done. You care so much about this family, and I was telling my friend how I'm incredibly impressed because in most cases in superhero films in particular, the family, who you probably can spend like 5 to 10 minutes in most cases to establish like, why this main character will do so much for the family, but they are so involved. They're not relegated to the background or just used as a pawn to move the story forward. They actually play an active role in this, especially George Lopez. I thought, initially when the first trailer dropped of this film came out, I thought, oh wow, he's just probably going to be there for jokes and nothing more, nothing less. Cause it's like, but George Lopez was, very active in this and offered, help that isn't like hacky or anything like that. This is very well done, and it's cheesy, with the grandmother a little bit, but I think it still works very well. Where she's just wielding weapons and playing out battle strategy in the third act, and it's like, wow, this, because he mentioned about like the mother mentions like, oh, we gotta tell you about the time your nana was a revolutionary. It's like, the what? It's like, whatever, because grandma has history. I think a lot of people from the Hispanic community, I think like my friend probably who's from Hispanic descent, thoroughly enjoyed this film, and I imagine like a lot of people, I deeply enjoyed it, but I think if you're from Hispanic descent, you'll probably enjoy this way more than most people would. I mean, but I think you'll still feel engaged whether or not you are from Hispanic descent, because it just, certain things like Vic's vapor rub, I think a lot of people, especially from the Hispanic community, but people from like lower to middle class would understand about Vic's vapor rub, because you see this. Hey, Rubric. Hopefully you saw this Blue Beetle movie, because I'm spoiling the heck out of it right now. But if you know about Vic's vapor rub and how crucial it is for certain middle to lower class families, you get it. And so certain things you'll get, but I think Hispanic families, because in the theater I was in, there's a lot of Hispanic families there, and I'm so glad. That's like, I kind of feel like Blue Beetle should have been like a big deal, like thank you for following me, man. Thank you. I think like Blue Beetle should have been on the same level if it wasn't for this writer strike. I think it should have been. Well, I'm pretty sure they wanted to really hammer this home and promote the heck out of this and be on the red carpet. If it wasn't for the strike thing, it would have been like on the same level. I argue it would have been on the same level as Black Panther and the first Wonder Woman. How big deal it is. It would have been like a huge deal. The red carpet would be filled with a bunch of little kids dressed as Blue Beetle, taking pictures with the main star. It would have been such a spectacle, and because like honestly, it deserves it. Because the Hispanic community deserves their Black Panther moment, and Blue Beetle should have been their Black Panther, and it's kind of like a shame. It's not the actor's fault or the writer's fault. It's these rich fat cats that can't who's already rich, but just utter greed can't give these writers, grips, actors, and all these people who are in the dirt and grime of the production side of filming of movie, don't give them livable wages, and practically want to replace a lot of them with AI stuff. And it's just like, man, it just effed up to the nth degree. But if it wasn't for all that mess, man, the promotion of this film would have been like unprecedented and well deserved. Like a lot of people who was involved with this film did a phenomenal job. I really do enjoy this film. Not perfect, because my only con I had of it was just that the main villain, it's like, was not. I mean, like, Victoria was intimidating because it's mostly Susan Sarandon's, acting chops. She can be intimidating, and she's definitely a threat, but she doesn't really rise to the same level of a scary threat, like, I don't know, like Scarlet Witch was in Doctor Strange 2, or Killmonger. She's definitely a bigger threat and intimidating than Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. She's definitely more intimidating than him. But it's just like, dang, it's like, I don't know, this is something that was missing from that part of it. Everything else was working very well for me. So when Jaime was going to the building trying to get talk with Jenny, see like about like what positions she can put him in so he can provide for his family, she was already, it's like, here's like a confusing part. You're on the verge of stealing a high-tech piece of alien gear, and that's like when Jaime contacted you, because like I said, I was bringing up about the whole family thing. I love the dynamic between Jaime and his father, having that moment, telling him about, like, it kind of reminds me of what happened in Miles Morales. I'm jumping all over the place. If you watch Across the Spider-Verse, and Miles had his talk with his mom about, like, don't let anybody tell you where you belong kind of situation. It's almost kind of got that same feel with Jaime and his family. It's like, you have a purpose. I don't know what it is yet, but it's gonna be spectacular. All this other stuff. That's what I'm saying. Like, Jaime Reyes is a fairly close representation of Spider-Man for the DC universe. Close, but not close. That close. But anyway, but why, like, he contacts Jenny about, like, clearly making an appointment or something to see her, to try to find like a job position with her, which is kind of coincidental that she happened to be there at the right place, right time to help her out when she's getting confronted by her aunt. But whatever. He, like, you knew what you was gonna do this particular day, and you was like, oh, we can't do it tomorrow, I'm busy, but can we talk the day after or something like that, if you're making that plan? Or if you had an idea of probably using him for this kind of mission, you could have, like, text it, call it, and it's like, hey, I got something I can't tell you, but I need your help with something like a secret project. And then he shows up there, and then it won't be less like what the heck's going on? Woo woo. So anyway, she bumps into him. Everything's about to go on lockdown once the Scarab discovered it being missing. She hands it to Jaime. It's almost to the same story beat as it is in the comics, but instead of the daughter, it's Ted, who would have done this in the comics. But hands the Scarab to Jaime, telling like, because he puts it in a Big Belly Burger box. Got thrown that Big Belly Burger, fast food thing that you see tons of times in DC properties. She hands it to him. He runs off, and the family looks at it. It seemingly does nothing, but as soon as Jaime gets a hold of it, it wakes up, attaches itself to it. That's where you get the body horror scene where it like adheres to his spine, and it tests out the weapons and durability and all that other stuff. And the suit looks incredible. The only other live action Blue Beetle that I've seen would have been in one episode of the final or second to last season of Smallville. It was played by like a whole entirely different actor, but that's the only other time I've seen Blue Beetle in live action. So the suit, because there it looked like a big bag Beetleborg kind of suit. Here it looks very streamlined, and oh, that's what I wanted to bring up earlier. The city, where it's like all ritzy and almost like Vegas vibes. It's almost Tron like, almost like a Tron look in a way, in terms of trying to look very futuristic. And even like Victoria's helicopter looks so familiar, and it wasn't until like the third act that kind of put it together. Like, those are like one of those helicopters in Tron Legacy, because it's the whole neon, bright neon with the black kind of motif. I was like, man, that kind of looks like something straight out of Tron. Anyway, Jaime goes to Jenny to try to figure out, what's going on with this thing and try to get it off. He picks her up as she's being attacked by Victoria's soldiers, or a little like personal hit squad, and he takes her back to his family's house, and they discover there's like a key which they have to go all the way back to the and sneak back into the building to find one of those Ted Cord watches, kind of like supposed to be like an Apple Watch but Ted Cord version, in order to go to an old building that used to belong to, like an old mansion that used to belong to Ted Cord that she hasn't gone to when she was 8. And this is where you get like her backstory about like her mom passed when she was 6, and it was just her and her dad, and all the love she wish she had growing up, because the father disappeared, the mom passed, and Jaime is so close to his family, and like she kind of missed out on that despite her wealthy upbringing. She she really wanted like a family, but they soon discover in the secret lair of Ted Cord, the Blue Beetle lair. And I love the display of the Dan Garrett and Ted Cord costumes on full display. It looks very good. It's like, I'm not like an avid Blue Beetle reader, but I'm pretty sure I will be once I read some, but I want to really get into some stuff. Definitely after this movie, I want to do a review for Dan Garrett Blue Beetle if I can find any, and Ted Cord Blue Beetle, then Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle comic, and do reviews for each one of those guys. So like look forward to that coming up, hopefully before like the Halloween season start really kicking off, because I gotta focus on the holiday stuff in the last 3 months of the year. But anyway, they discovered that the scarab cannot be taken off, because the only other person that had it on them on record would be Dan Garrett, and he discovered that it could not be taken off until the host dies, either by a battle or just by old age. So Jaime is stuck with it, and then once, I don't even know how they eventually figured it out, but Victoria figures out. Well, they kind of like trace, some stuff to Jaime's family's house, and man, I'm pretty sure it was triggering for a lot of families, where you see like these uh, uh, black ops soldiers uh, break into this small home uh, in this neighborhood and kick down all these doors and scaring a family like it's a freaking raid, and they're huddled in a room, scared out of their wits and yanked out of their homes. And it's like, God, that is just like, that's probably the most terrifying I've seen this villain be, because that's such a real thing. And it's just like, oh God, it's almost hard to watch, almost, because it's like, it's just to see the fear, and because to know how realistic that is. And they get dragged out. Their home is set ablaze by one of the candles falling on the ground, and his whole place is torched. And they literally about to fire on this family, this defenseless family, until Blue Beetle swoops and stops all those guys. And of course, the Scarab, wants to, because he had like an interaction earlier with Omac, and the Scarab wants to use lethal force, but Jaime does not want to kill nobody. He, it's like, incapacitate, like, knock him out, but no killing. But I like how that, kind of turns around in the end, because man, it's very well done. I really, really love that. But Jaime takes out the guards and is about to shoot down Victoria's plan, until you see that one of the soldiers, like, hits the dad with the butt of his gun, but the sister managed to get him up, but he has a heart distress, gives him a heart attack. That comes right back around. I knew it was going to happen, just didn't know when in the movie was going to happen. Because, like, man, it's like you see enough superhero movies, like certain things is gonna, like, okay, this gotta be the point where he's gonna have a heart attack at some point in this particular scene. Just like when in Ted Kori's mansion, Jaime and Jenny was look like they're about to kiss, but I'm like, okay, and they're gonna get interrupted in 3, 2, cue the uncle. There, it's like, come on, that's I don't know. It's just because you see a lot of this. If you watch enough Hallmark Christmas movies, they do that extremely a lot, more so than any other film, because it's supposed to be a wholesome family thing. So they can't have the couple kiss too early in the film. They gotta say that at the last shot of the film to, like, cinch the relationship. And it's kind of like, come on, just can at least one of y'all at least once do the kiss, in these Hallmark Christmas movies, but then, like, do the, like, oh, the liar reveal trope, then, like, make up, kiss again. It's like, I don't know why that's such a big deal. But anyway, I say that to say that, okay, can we just, like, not do the interrupting kiss cliche? And I shouldn't be able to time it. I was like, it's not, you're not being clever about it no more. No director, no writer, no studio head, should not be unfamiliar with this trope where it's like, you gotta do that. Why you need to do that? It's not even superhero movies, it's all movies. Just kiss, make out. I'm not saying like you need to turn to like a porn parody or something like that, but just, it's like, clearly y'all into each other. Just, just speed it up. We know y'all gonna just hook up anyway. It's just like, just kiss, establish, like, hey, you gotta think for each other, so we can continue on. But anyway, the dad gets a heart attack, but Jaime gets captured by Victoria and Omac. But then the Nana, rallies everybody, and it's like, we'll cry later, but right now we need to get Jaime back. So they go to uh the uh Blue Beetle lair, and you get to see the Ted Kord's ship, which looks phenomenal. I know it's a bit of CGI, but I swear it's got some practical effects to it as well. And the way the thing is moving, it looks good. It doesn't look clunky, in my opinion. It doesn't take you out because the CGI is just too fake looking, and you know the difference if you see enough movies. And you see a lot of Ted Kord's gadgets where they use to help get inside this island area they're using as like a fortress to do their science experiment, to try to download the info inside the scarab, which would hurt Jaime and will kill him, but she doesn't care. But just to try to download the specs into all these OMAC carapace. I don't know, because the guy named Carapace, and he got like something like this proto or pseudo Blue Beetle type of thing that you want to model into soldiers. And this is his Mexican guy who is like her tech dude, and I feel very sad for this guy because he knows he wants to help, but after Jaime does this inside his mind soul searching and talks with his dead dad and gives him that encouragement that he needs to reconnect with the scarab, they are fully bonded, and thanks to also in combination with Jenny and the others, placing bombs in strategic areas to tear down this place and destroy all these machines. It releases Jaime, and the tech guy Sanchez, who was always get his name. I'm pretty sure a lot of Hispanic people been there, where like somebody, especially a white person, constantly misspells or mispronouncing their name because they one, like this girl, this receptionist, cannot get a clue. I'm glad they didn't hammer it too hard and just happens like once for one person and once for another person. But it's like calling Jaime Jamie, even though he could been correcting her twice already. But because it's written by a lot of Hispanic people, so they're putting their, that's why I feel like it's so authentic and not hackneyed, because they actually got not only Hispanic writers, but Hispanic director, and like people behind the scenes of that descent, putting their influence in it, just like they did with someone like Coco, where it's like you feel like the realism behind it. It doesn't feel clunky or hackneyed. But anyway, Sanchez will gets Jaime out because his suit has got a reboot because it's been offline for a while. So it can't really protect him fully yet. So while OMAC's suit is like more upgraded now, and it's like this is probably the most gory part of the entire film, where Sanchez doesn't leave with Jaime right away, but he had to lock the door because you don't want to, because they could easily smash the keypad thing, because these other two has access to unlock this door. So you have to let Jaime out and lock the door behind him and smash the thing, so they cannot give him at least enough time for him to get some distance, which is a heroic moment. But it's kind of cheesy, but it's kind of funny too, in this cheesy way, where after mispronouncing his name so much, Sanchez yells at Victoria's like, I kind of want to make sure I get this right. What is the guy? saying it's not on the list of names here, but it's like my name is like something 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 Sanchez, and like the length of the name with so many middle names involved, uh, it's almost like, you know, his like huzzah moment, and he, as he's letting, you know, Jaime get away, you see like just he getting like stabbed or something like that, and blood hits like the window of the door, and I was like, oh my god. uh it's not like, I think they kind of push the PG-13 rating slightly, because the blood wasn't like overtly red, is almost like just a black. It's almost the same way where you see in like the Venom movie, where it's like almost like, you know, off screen, or it's kind of like black, where it's not like a hard R stuff where, you know, you can whatever. But I was like, oh my god, did not see that one. I knew he's gonna die, but I didn't know how it was, and it's like, oh god, and it's like paste. You just turn on the paste. So Jaime meets up with the sister, and he goes back to find Jenny, who's been captured by her aunt, and he fights Omac, and he makes, like you see in the trailer, he makes the, you know, Cloud's Buster Sword from Final Fantasy. I was like, god, that's dope. And he actually does an Omni Slash. Not, I don't think it was like kind of overtly, but it's like, I know the movement patterns, and it's like there's certain movement patterns. If you played Final Fantasy, you know, especially the remake one, you can tell certain moves like, okay, that's pretty fun, that's awesome. But after, like, you know, he feels like, you know, Omac is about to kill him. Rudy was on the opposite roof throwing rocks, distracting him long enough for Jaime to get out of his grip, but Omac shoots a blast on the roof area, seemingly killing Rudy, but of course he makes it out. But, you know, this puts Jaime into like a berserker rage, and you know, incapacitates Omac. But before he was going to land the killing blow, the suit freezes, and Kajidala said, like, you know, repeated the words that Jaime taught to it, like, you know, we don't kill, Jaime. And I like the moments when, like, you know, Kajidala speaks Spanish back to Jaime every once in a while, just to show that union. But it's like, it's a cool thing to turn it back around, like, you know, Kajidala learned from Jaime about like the importance of not being just like a kill machine. But because the suit was, you know, briefly connected to the Omac suit while it was trying to download its information into it, Kajidala learned and showed Jaime like the horrific past that, you know, Carapace went through his childhood in Guatemala. Is, you know, his home was bombed, his mother died, he got indoctrinated into, like, as a young child soldier, picked up by Victoria, used as like a, you know, just been used and used and used, and then eventually, like, you know, got hurt in like an explosion, and then experimented on to look the way he did earlier in the film. And it was like, you know, it's Jaime, you know, like, understands now, and, you know, more sympathetic of this guy's plight and why he had an outlook the way he does. But this mercy he showed Carapace, you know, clicks with him about, because he has his locket that has him and his mother in it, and he realized, okay, like, you know, he goes to Victoria, who plane crash land thanks to the fight she had with Jenny. He, he enters his suit in self-destruct mode and carries Victoria to like the spewing flames, and it explodes. It's a nice moment when they get back to their home, and the local neighborhood comes to, it shows the goodness of community, where like the local people come by and they literally have this big kind of barbecue, and they're helping out. And then of course Jenny, because she's rich, she takes over Court Industries, and not only give like the uncle a new car because his ride got messed up, but also make sure they rebuild the home. And of course Jaime and Jenny hook up, and the Kashi make this comment. It's like, there's blood flow in your lower regions. It's like, it was like, wow, TMI. So yeah, and of course there's the mid credits, no end credits, but there's a mid credit scene where somehow Ted Core is sending like a message to his home base, saying like, I'm alive, like Jenny, are you there? I'm alive. Your dad's alive. And so it's going to be a sequel, and it's going to be centered around obviously Ted Kord, and diving deeper into Jenny's life, and it's probably more than likely going to be about her. And the relationship between Ted and Jaime will be like blossoming. But yeah, that was Blue Beetle. Whole lot of fun. Like I said, it's honestly like a 7 out of 10 in my opinion. Some people probably a little bit higher, but it's a very well done film. Kudos to everybody involved, and hopefully we'll see more of these guys moving forward in the DC universe. But yeah, so if anybody who hasn't not seen it, I know I just spoiled it for you, but if you've already seen it and you've seen this review, and people who haven't seen it, definitely encourage them to go see it. It's well worth the wait, as well worth the watch. Anywho, I will see you guys in like 20 minutes. I'm gonna be playing more FF16, more Guilty Gear Strive, and we'll see what else. Depending if I have the energy to do more. But I might stream a little bit tomorrow because I'm not going to work tomorrow, but I'm gonna be heading to the gym. I got to get to work on more Chaotic Lore videos. But anyway, I will see you all in a little bit. If you are watching this on YouTube, leave a comment below. Let me know what you thought of the movie. What's the pros and cons you think of it? And what you think the sequel was going to be if you had to wager a guess. Anyway, I will see you all later. Take care. Have a pleasant weekend.